Deputy Speaker, and honourable members on both sides will be delighted to know that I'm not going to quote any legislation or any other numbers which the honourable member has just went into in some detail. I support the bill, and I believe the European Stability Mechanism is necessary. I agree with my right honourable friend from Paisley in Renfrewshire that the need for action is beyond doubt. But I certainly don't delude myself, Mr Deputy Speaker, that these two clauses are going to paper over the massive crack, the massive problem that we have in Europe. And if I can misquote Groucho Marx, there is no sanity clause, which is something which I think is sorely needed. Because yes, we need stability for Europe's banks. We need to correct the balance between austerity and growth, and we need a bigger firewall to protect Europe from the economic problems that it faces. And one thing that hasn't been touched upon, Mr Deputy Speaker, or has been touched upon, but not in the way I would put it, is this North and South European disconnect. Because for a part of my previous life, I was a trade union official and negotiated with colleagues in all different parts of the European Union, and there was always a disconnect between those in the North and those in the South. And the honourable member for Camborne and Redruth put it in a different way, but there was always a necessity from those members attending meetings from the North to get to a solution, agree a way forward, and then move on that solution in that way forward. Whereas the tendency for our southern neighbours in Europe was always to try and put off the day for a decision to be made, try and circumnavigate the need to make a decision, and eventually, it may have taken several meetings to get there, but we eventually reached a conclusion. But I don't think that North-South disconnect in Europe has been properly addressed by leaders across Europe, and I think it's something that we have to look at very carefully. I also think that Germany needs to step up to the plate in a significant way, because we have heard from more than one speaker this evening that Germany gets all the benefits of the euro in terms of where its currency is valued, but it doesn't seem to want to make its contribution to the solution. And therefore, that debate has to be resolved, first of all within Germany, and then at a euro level. But there's another element of this, Mr Deputy Speaker, which has to be looked at carefully, and this is the balance between austerity and growth, because I did intervene earlier on a member from Stone, and he came back and, surprise, surprise, he put his hand in his back pocket and he pulled out, well, it's all your fault on the other side of the chamber because you gave us this massive deficit. Now, I don't want to get into all that again, Mr Deputy Speaker, aside from saying this, that I'm sure that the honourable member from Stone was not suggesting that when the previous government bailed out the banks, which prevented us moving from a recession into a depression, that the honourable members on the other side of this chamber did not support that necessary action. And if I can give you an unusual quote, or paraphrase a gentleman I heard speaking last week, the former governor of Florida, the Republican Jeb Bush, he said, "Don't blame us for mistakes on your watch." Now, that was Republicans talking to the Democrats in America. But since the coalition government has taken over, they have to recognise that there has been an increase in terms of how much we're borrowing by over £150 billion, and therefore they have to recognise that there is at least an arguable case that their balance between austerity and growth may be wrong and may need to be recalibrated. In terms of the question put by the honourable gentleman for Cheltenham to the honourable member for Stone about, if not this to the Eurosceptics, how are we going to solve this particular problem? And answer came there none, because I didn't agree with analysis of the honourable member for Stone in terms of how Germany got into its problems in the 1930s, because as a former student of history, my recollection is that there was a reparations after the Treaty of Versailles which created the inflationary problems in Germany, and it wasn't connected in a wider way to Europe, aside from the fact that the Allies, of course, forced the Treaty of Versailles on a defeated Germany after the Second World War. So I'll put the question again. What do those who do not support this proposal think will happen if the Eurozone is unceremoniously collapsed? And people have predicted, and I feel it would be a proper prediction to predict chaos, carnage and colossal damage on our streets. And what would the streets of Europe look like, Mr Deputy Speaker? Much more has to be done in relation to the euro area and how we resolve this crisis. There is going to be no painless solution, but just in the same way as that the bank bailout prevented our country moving from recession into into depression, the support of the ESM can and must be a starting point to a more permanent solution for the problems of the euro area.
Okay. Neil